Our goal at the Travel Dialogue podcast is to make you a smarter traveler. Now, we all have our dream destination. It might be a fantastic beach resort, or hiking up in the mountains, or traveling through your favorite city. However, while we all dream about that destination, there is a process by which you need to get to that destination in the first place. Depending on how far the destination is, that process can be really long and tiring. Over the last 15 years or so, I have traveled around the world and I have taken some really, really crazy itineraries. Think about this: flying from Mumbai to Bangkok, Bangkok to Shanghai, Shanghai to Los Angeles, and then Los Angeles to San Diego, driving for about 2 hours with multiple stops in between. Just imagine how long your itinerary can get depending on the distance of your travel. I've also traveled all the way from Mumbai to New Zealand with a stopover in Singapore as well. Now, why am I giving all these examples? While traveling to Los Angeles or traveling to New Zealand can be very exciting, and those trips can create some fantastic memories for you, it really takes a long time to get there. And it can be really tiring by the time you actually reach your destination and start enjoying the trip that you were really dreaming about all this while. That brings us to the topic of discussion today, which is about how you can stay fit and nimble when you travel. We all love traveling, but we still have to take that long flight. We still have to stay at that hotel. And as you may already know, the food served in a lot of flights and hotels is not the kind of food that you would normally get at home. You also have to sit for long hours, and you don't really have the level of movement that you usually have in your daily routine. So, given all that, and the fact that you still love traveling far and wide around the globe, how do you maintain your fitness levels? How do you stay nimble and flexible while on the road? Today, we're going to be joined by Ajinkya Natu, who has expertise in exactly this field. He has been a practitioner in both fitness and yoga for more than a decade, and he will be sharing his pearls of wisdom about how one can stay fit and flexible while traveling. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Travel Dialogue podcast. And I'm delighted to have my friend Ajinkya Natu join us for this podcast. Ajinkya, how are you doing?
Hi Ashish, I'm good, thanks. First of all, I would like to congratulate you on this new venture. Thank you
Okay.
for having me on this podcast. It's a very interesting and I would say often neglected, but a very relevant topic that you've chosen. So happy to be here.
Indeed. I mean, this is something that is often not discussed a lot. So it's always very interesting to have people who have a slightly different take on things or covering a subtopic which is not usually very mainstream in nature. Anyway, so start by telling us something about yourself, what you do, and what really got you so interested in both travel and what you do as a profession as well.
My name is Ajinkya Natu. I am a freelancer. I have been into this field of yoga and fitness training since 2012. Post completion of my major yoga and fitness certifications, I started taking personal and group training sessions. After the pandemic, now major part of my work is online trainings. Most of my clients currently are from out of my city or out of even from out of the country. So along with some in-person trainings, I do a lot of online trainings. Regarding travel, I've been always lucky that my parents have always been interested in travel. I remember ever since I was a kid traveling to different places. We had a group of friends. My parents had a group of friends. We used to travel a lot, even in college. And my friends who are interested in traveling, we have traveled a lot. And now, currently, with my wife and my kid, we keep traveling. So that is like a passion.
Yes, a lot of us pick up that passion for travel at a very early age. And that's probably the best place to start because as a parent, you would probably relate to the fact that now we have to plan a lot more. And when you're a
Absolutely.
kid, you just have to simply go to the trip and not do anything. So
Right.
it's a lot less work and all 100% enjoyment.
Correct.
So, as you mentioned at the start, you said that you have a lot of people that tune into your training who are not from the city or not from the country. You would probably have also encountered a lot of people who are having very busy schedules or constantly traveling for work. So, is there any particular mistake or pitfall that you see people get into when they are traveling?
The most common mistake, or rather than mistake, I would say it's a natural tendency of people to, take fitness and exercise for granted, especially when they are traveling. You know, there is this quote that I've read somewhere that fitness is perishable. Let's say if someone is who is regularly into exercising and say decides to go on a long holiday, somehow he's not able to maintain that fitness routine which he's used to. It could be because of some challenges, like maybe no access to proper gyms or the equipments that he's used to, or maybe sometimes what happens is the itinerary is so packed that it's difficult to find time, to focus on exercising separately. So now this can lead to something which is a very common thing, that one can get demotivated naturally. Your fitness goals can go for a toss, your fitness levels can go for a toss. So this is like a pitfall, I would say. And honestly, I think there are very few people who can self motivate. That is, that is how it is. And getting back to the fitness routine on their own becomes difficult. On a lighter note here, I would say this is why the fitness trainer industry works in a way, because you need someone to motivate you, to push you out of your comfort zone, to guide you properly in your fitness journey wherever you are in any part of the world, and especially now that online training is also possible. Apart from that, when it comes to not mistakes, but again there are issues where people can have sleep issues, or sleep deprivation is very common, especially when you have longer flights, or sometimes there are longer layovers. Your sleep patterns can get affected. Now, along with that, very common thing is not hydrating oneself enough. You tend to forget drinking enough water or taking enough fluids during the journey. Also, I think when it comes to food intake, there are chances that you may have to skip your meals, or at the same time overindulge in unnecessary wrong foods. So all this, what happens is, can affect your energy levels and your overall health, and you wouldn't want that, especially when you are traveling. So, anyways, long distance traveling can be quite tiring. So, having said that, all these challenges I'm sure can be overcome in various ways with proper planning. That's what I feel. So, when it comes to mistakes, or pitfalls, or these issues that can come up when you're traveling, all these can be managed with proper planning.
So when you interact with your clients and let's say they are traveling for a vacation and you mentioned quite correctly at the start that you need a fitness trainer or you need someone who can motivate you from outside to tell you that you need to do this. Do you follow this as a practice or try to nail this concept into your clients' minds that they have to make fitness as a routine so that it doesn't get interrupted while travel, where let's say other people really let their guard down? So I will give my own example that
Right.
when I'm at home, I'm pretty much following a set routine. But when I'm traveling, I often have this tendency that, okay, let's eat this, let's
Correct.
eat that, let's skip my
Correct.
workout today. So this whole concept of routine goes out of the window. So do you have
Correct.
any particular advice, or do you keep reminding them that, hey, you might be on vacation, but you need to still do this, even though we are not having a, let's say we are not doing a session today?
Correct. So yes, of course. So I have a few clients who keep traveling regularly. So some of the clients definitely make it a point that they have a separate time whenever possible. They make it a point that they work out. We plan the sessions in that way. Other clients, there have been times where I've given them a schedule, or some of the basic exercises what they can follow whenever they get time. It's not that you need to have a 1 hour workout every time. Even a few minutes, like 10-15 minutes workout, is good enough, especially when you're traveling, to at least maintain your fitness levels. So yes, so I do make it a point to keep pushing my clients to have that mindset that yes, some time for exercise. I'm not saying you need to do it daily, but whenever possible, instead of not doing at all, something is better than nothing. So that's how it is.
So there are a lot of people, especially you mentioned the point about sleep deprivation at the beginning. What happens is, especially for air travel, you have a lot of these consultants or people traveling for sales meetings who are
Right.
doing these flights. They travel on Mondays, come back on Thursdays. So with regards to air travel, there's obviously a lot of disruption because there's a change in air pressure, there's a change in
Correct.
the kind of food that you eat. Do you make any specific recommendations, or would you advise people in general about what kind of yoga fitness routine they could incorporate into their schedule if they're constantly traveling for work and are pressed for time?
So for someone who is regularly traveling, especially by flights, setting a routine is definitely a challenge, or sometimes almost impossible, because you have flights at different times, sometimes at night, sometimes there are longer flights. So usually we would say you need to fix your schedule for exercising, follow a routine, maybe 1 hour of exercise 3 to 5 times a week, which are general guidelines. And it becomes easier when you get into that habit or a set schedule. But for someone, I would say, who is continuously traveling, like I said, the flight timings are different. Also, when one is traveling abroad, and time zones are different. In that case, it's all about proper utilization of available free time. Sometimes it may be ideal, but definitely not compulsory that one has to work out for like 60 minutes or more than an hour. Absolutely not required. It's more about intensity and it's all about consistency. So, since we are talking about air travel, there are many ways in which you can maximize, including movements in the available time. It is said that human body is designed to move and walk. So, like for example, in the airport, you can walk as much as possible whenever you can and increase your step count. Also, these days, I'm sure you travel a lot. You know there are travelators on the airport, and people find that convenient. It is made for convenience, but sometimes, if you avoid those and walk instead, that can help. That is one way you increase your step count. That's how you move.
Yes.
Also, if there is an option, sometimes you can take stairs instead of escalators at the airport. For example, if you see Mumbai International Airport, after checking in, when you have to go towards a security check, you have two escalators going down, and in between those, there are stairs. Most of the times, you will see the stairs are empty. So you can take stairs instead of escalators. Apart from walking and moving, you can do simple stretching routine, some dynamic movements, especially for the lower body and the back muscles, and some static stretching exercises. Because in the flight, most of the times you're going to sit for a longer time. So to counter that stiffness, you can do such exercises. You can create a simple stretching routine, or if you have a coach, he can guide you. Make a list of some exercises and make it a habit to follow that every time you're traveling. So, and when it comes to yoga, if someone has time, say suppose you have reached the gate early, you can definitely do some breathing exercises, some pranayams, and I would definitely recommend doing breathing techniques when you're at the airport before boarding rather than in flight, mainly because of the fresher air and more open environment. So these are the things that you can follow, especially when you are maybe before going into the aircraft or when you're traveling.
So, if you just look at Mumbai Airport, you gave the example of Mumbai Airport. It was interesting because Mumbai Airport is actually one of those places, especially for international flights, you will see that you have to walk a lot.
Right, exactly.
Even even on the way back, walking all the way from the aircraft, from once you get out of the
Yeah.
jet bridge all the way to immigration, is quite a long walk.
That is where
Uh,
you will see a lot of travelators, which you can avoid and walk
yes,
instead. But again, sometimes there are constraints where you have a heavy bag, heavy luggage, and people are already tired after a long flight. So people, they tend to use that convenience. So it's not always that you have to think about fitness, but as much as you can include such tricks and tips.
so when we just talk about walking, what is interesting is, have you ever had any of your clients say this, that hey, I am right now in Europe and I'm walking 15,000 steps anyway. Do I still need to do everything else that you're asking me to do? Do people think that it is a good substitute for whatever workout routine that they're not following during a vacation?
Uh, Here I would say that walking is one form of cardio, and I would always recommend that you need to have all the fitness components in your exercise regime. Like cardio, strength training is equally important. uh, Flexibility, mobility works like yoga. You can do Pilates, core work. So, although I know you are in Europe or such Western countries where if you walk a lot, at the same time, it is also important to stretch out to do some mobility work, and definitely some you can do body weight training for strength training. So all these components, if you can get even when you're traveling, so there's nothing like it.
We briefly spoke about corporate travelers and the fact that they're pressed for time. But when you look at leisure travelers, a lot of us do leisure travel every few months, I would say 3 to 4 times a year with family. And let's say you are at the gate and you have about 90 minutes, let's say 2 hours before your flight. Are there any specific stretches or any sort of muscle groups that you would really advise travelers to say this is something that you could do even before you board so that your flight, however long it is, 6 hours, 10 hours, will go a lot smoother as
Correct.
opposed to not doing anything at all or just going to the lounge and eating?
So actually, whether it is business travelers or leisure travelers, the pre-flight or post-flight routine will be similar. Like I mentioned, walking whenever or wherever possible is the best option. If suppose say there is a long layover, and depending on the time of the day, you can also maybe do a light jog at the airport. Other than that, you can do some simple stretches, standing yoga poses like stretching the arms over the head, some balancing on the base of the toes, then standing forward bends, standing back bends. These won't take much of space, or you can do anywhere, anytime, standing in the standing position. So basically, incorporating all the spinal movements to just keep yourself nimble and flexible before boarding the flight. Also, hydration becomes very important. You ensure that you keep sipping enough water throughout the journey, especially even before boarding the flight. You can have keep sipping water. You may need to go to the washroom multiple times in the aircraft, but at least that will ensure that you keep getting up and keep moving in the aircraft. So, although it may not be always convenient, but that's a little trick, how to uh, include more movement during your journey.
Yeah, the thing is that a lot of people I've seen that they, instead of actually consuming more water, they end up having more beverages that actually dehydrate them, and that usually tends to really hurt them, especially in a longer flight. So let's have a look at some of the more challenging issues, though. You're taking a much longer flight. You have also flown to the US from India. You know how long these flights can be sometimes.
Correct.
Dubai, Los Angeles is very long flight. Singapore, Los Angeles also. What do you do in such a situation where you are stuck in economy, and someone like me who is tall and who has issues with leg room?
Correct.
It can be really cumbersome. Movement is not really that easy, especially when you're not near the aisle. Are there any specific recommendations that you have in terms of how to survive that 16, 15 hour long flight better?
Right. So, if you ask me personally, I have always been uncomfortable in longer flights. I think other than Bombay Goa flight, which is like 45, 50 minutes, any other flight longer than that, I don't think I've ever been comfortable. And I'm sure for taller people like you, it is even worse when you're cramped for room. So what happens in especially in economy seats is because you are sitting in one place for a long time, there is posterior tightness, especially in the hamstrings, the lower back, the hips. You feel fatigued in those areas, and it is similar in a way to people who have desk jobs. They have postural issues and complaints because they sit in one place for a long time. The muscles are always in a contracted state. So some of the things that you can do while you are in the seat is do some basic joint rotation and movements. Like if you look at the upper body joints, you can start from the neck, do some neck movements, bending the neck forward, backwards, sideways, maybe rotation of the neck, and then go for shoulders. You can do some shoulder shrugs or shoulder rotations, and elbow flexion extension, that is bending and extending. Then you can also do wrist rotations, finger movements. In the seat, you can also go for torso twist, like I mentioned, torso twisting before the flight. You can also, I'm sure there's space under the seat, so you can do some ankle rotation movements up, down. So, all these basic, simple movements can also help improving blood circulation in the joints and the muscles. And whenever possible, you can stand and walk in the flight, in the aisle. You can do some gentle standing stretches, which I mentioned, Once you are in the flight and you have the opportunity to stand up, to just release the stiffness. Maybe you can go to the back of the flight and do some spot marching for a minute or so. Even that can help. So basically, the bottom line is even if there are space constraints, you have to try and find opportunities where you can move and improve the blood circulation. So all this will help in reducing any pain, any cramping, so that the journey is more comfortable. Like you said about the aisle seat, I mean, no, it's a personal choice, obviously, but maybe if you don't have a preference, I would say always choose an aisle seat so that you can, have an opportunity to get up whenever you can without
Correct.
troubling others.
The thing that you said about walking within the aircraft during the flight is actually quite interesting because some of these flights are actually quite big in size. So the last time we flew Singapore, it was, I think, an A380. It was a huge flight, and sometimes you are always tempted to press that call button when you want something. So instead of pressing that call button and asking the flight attendant to get something for you, it's always better if you actually go. Let's say you finish that long 15-16 hour flight, you get to the hotel, and you're now checked in. Hotels are an interesting place because they not only serve some of the most delicious food, but also have some of the best gyms. So a lot of us really get tempted by the food and don't really go to the gym that often. Do you have any opinion about hotel gyms? Let's say you have a look at the average hotel between, let's say, 3 to 5 star hotels. Do you think that they're well equipped, or do you see patterns in which you always find a few things missing?
Well, it depends. These days, most of the good hotels will have some gym facility. I would say the situation is now much better compared to, say, 15, 20 years back. Because, the general awareness about health and fitness has also improved a lot. Especially post COVID, people are kind of, focusing a lot on taking care of your health. The hotel prices are not cheap anymore, you know that. And people do expect having all the facilities in the premium price that they are paying. So apart from very budget hotels, I would say most hotels do provide you with a gym. But having said that, obviously, just because some hotel is like rated 5 star doesn't mean that it'll be very well, equipped or a very big gym. To give you an example, I have clients who travel regularly in India and abroad, and we do online training sessions whenever they are traveling. So we have come across situations where the hotel is very premium, but the gym facility is not as per the expectation of the standard of the hotel. And there have been times where we have found excellent gym facilities in little less category hotels with some great machines and variety of equipment. So honestly, there's no real pattern as such. But if you ask me personally, if any hotel has, say, a couple of cardio machines like a treadmill and a cycle, along with some free weights, some dumbbells, maybe kettlebells, with a bench, and if there is a multifunctional cable machine, and maybe a small space to do your stretching or yoga on a mat. Even with these basic things, I would say it is still a great gym. Even with such basic equipment, you can do your whole body workout and maintain your fitness levels, especially when we are talking about travel.
I mean, one of my favorite things to do when I'm traveling is not actually going to the gym, but I love to go to the pool every day. And I
Yes,
think
correct.
someone like you, who is an expert swimmer, would agree to the fact that it's one of the best exercises, and
Absolutely.
especially to also relax after a long day of, let's say, walking or traveling.
Exactly. If the hotel has a swimming pool, then I would say there's nothing better than a nice swim to relax and unwind after a hectic travel day.
As you mentioned at the start about the discrepancy between the different types of equipment that you see, some of the gyms are really well equipped, sometimes the gyms are not as well equipped. So let's compare two different scenarios, working out in the gym at a hotel versus working out in the hotel room. When you advise your clients, do you have any specific recommendations when a client comes to you and says that, hey, you don't really have a gym that's well equipped? What do I need to do for the next week? We can first start with, let's say, a gym workout, the average gym workout, and then you can maybe segue to workouts in a hotel.
See, I would say if a hotel has a gym facility available, even with the most basic equipment, then nothing like it. I mean, at least you have a little more choice and you can play around with different types of exercises. Depending on your fitness goals, you can do some form of cardio, some strength training, along with flexibility and mobility routines. You can do some yoga. So in a gym setting, it just becomes slightly easier because of access to different options, I would say. So now all this can also be done in a hotel room. Most hotels these days do provide you with a yoga or an exercise mat. Even budget hotels, there is a possibility that you will get a mat at least. So you can do body weight exercises like squats, lunges, push-ups, dips, or tricep dips. Some core workout on the mat. You just need a space of a mat just next to the bed in the hotel room. Even that is sufficient. So one can also do HIIT workouts, which is high intensity interval training for some form of cardio combined with strength work. So it's a short duration workout. So even a quick 15 to 20 minutes of HIIT can give you a great workout. Of course, you can do again yoga, or maybe if you know how to do mat Pilates, some core work on the mat, that is also an option. So even a few Surya Namaskars or sun salutations, and you're good to go. So also swimming is an option if the pool is available. So it's all about improvising and making the best use of whatever is available in the hotel.
That's a great point. And we have seen over the years how travel has evolved, not just from the point of view of how we travel, but also the kind of tools that we have at our disposal. So, right from having physical boarding passes to virtual boarding passes that we can just scan and go ahead. Even the room keys are right now.
Correct.
You have apps that can help you check in. If one were to leverage technology to make tracking your workouts or your yoga routine much easier, are there any specific apps or any sort of tools that you usually recommend to clients?
I haven't used too many apps myself, but a few I can think of which I have tried. One I think was something called as Workout Trainer app, and there is one more. I think Fitness Blender, which I don't think if they have an app, but there's definitely a YouTube channel available, and you will get tons of different types of workout, short duration workouts on that. It was pretty interesting when I had seen it last. I've heard about Nike training app. Then there is something called as a short duration 7 minute workout app. So all these there are nowadays you get hundreds of apps and so much information that is available online. Even for HIIT workout, one thing that I regularly use is like a Tabata timer app. It has set timers, and you can also change the timers. So if you're doing an HIIT workout, you can use that. It's a brilliant app.
So for the knowledge of our audience, can you quickly just explain what Tabata
Okay,
is?
so Tabata is one form of high intensity workout. So if you consider HIT, high intensity workout, high intensity training is like an umbrella. Under that, you will have high intensity interval training, HIIT, so which is time based. In that, you have one format which is called as Tabata. It was named after the person who devised this form of workout. I think his name was Izumi Tabata. So it is like a short duration workout. Basically, it's a 20-minute workout. You can choose 8 exercises, and there are various exercises that you can choose. So if you know some exercise like burpees or even simple squats, push-ups, all these things, jumping jacks, if you want to go for a little cardio workout. So any 8 exercises if you choose, you do the exercise for 20 seconds and you take a break of 10 seconds. So it's like 20 on, 10 off. If you do one set of 8 exercises, it becomes a 4 minute set. Then you take a 1 minute break, and then you go for the next set again. You can repeat these exercises, or you can choose another set of exercise. So if you do 4 sets of these exercises, so 4 minutes per set, so it becomes 16 minutes of workout. Plus, if you include that 1 minute break, so it becomes a 20-minute workout. It's a fantastic form of exercising. But again, what kind of exercises you can choose is all subjective. Everybody's goals are different, everybody's levels of fitness are different. So again, under guidance, if you can do nothing like it, or you can follow some apps and you can start with the beginner level exercises. I wouldn't say for a beginner directly go for high impact workout. You can start with low impact exercises so that there's not much stress on the joints. So this is basically Tabata workout. Okay, so when we are talking about traveling, HIIT is something I would definitely recommend. You can look at. It's a short duration workout, and you can achieve your goals in that 20-minute workout.
Yeah, I mean, these are some really good options because, as you said, these workouts have to be customized based on that particular person's requirements. Person, let's say, in his 50s having some
Correct.
injuries would be having a very different routine as opposed to someone in his 20s who has a lot more energy and has fewer chances of injuries as well.
Of different apps, for yoga related information, I would suggest, and I have used some of these. Like Yoga International app is a fantastic app, I feel. And there is something called as Daily Yoga and Down Dog app. So you can get different classes. You can get information of different poses. So actually, there is so much information available. But here I would say one thing. I mean, I will never recommend a beginner to just randomly follow exercises from the app or just watching random YouTube videos. It's still okay or fine for someone who has had expert guidance or who understands the nuances and the form and technique of different type of exercise, because that is very very important. I mean, otherwise there is always a chance of injuring oneself, and that is something that you definitely don't want to do when you are traveling.
Yeah, in addition to the apps that you mentioned, there's obviously a lot of equipment that is now available, which you can also carry with you. I mean, there are resistance bands, and
Correct.
there's a lot of other things that you can do. And do you have any particular advice or recommendation when it comes to what kind of small size equipment can someone fit into their check-in or even cabin bags when
Correct.
they're traveling, and how they can
So,
use?
honestly, my favorite equipment, and which I have carried on many of my trips, is a resistance tube. In fact, I have it near me if I can show it to you. So it has these handles at the end, and you get different types of these these days, and with different resistance levels also. So for a beginner, it'll be maybe level one. Then this is like a level three Reebok resistance tube. You also get an anchor along with it to hook the tube to a door or a window, or maybe something fixed like a sturdy bar. So you can work on all your different body parts with just one tube. It's a fantastic and very versatile equipment. Then apart from this, you have resistance bands, like you mentioned, there are TheraBands. You can carry another equipment which is fantastic for cardio, just a skipping rope. I'm sure most of us have done skipping even when we were young. So even a skipping rope just in the hotel room, you can have a nice workout with a skipping rope. Just a few minutes of skipping can do wonders to your energy levels and your mood. You can also carry a foam roller if you can get a compact foam roller. So now, when I had been to the US, I luckily found this one cork roller. So it's a very compact roller. So you can do rolling and massaging the muscles with this. But again, these things you need to know how to do it. So all these things hardly take up any space in the bag. And in fact, the funny thing is your own cabin bag or your check-in bag itself can be used as an equipment. Suppose your bag is say like 7 to 10 kgs, or your check-in bag can be even more than that. You can hold the bag and do squats, lunges, maybe deadlifts, some rowing, or overhead presses. So you can just play around with all these equipments. So there are lots of options, lots of choices. Again, it's how you are smart enough to make the most use of all these equipments.
So with the bags, I
Yeah,
actually never thought it. Usually, what happens is we only pick up the bags when
correct.
we want to weigh them before a flight, and we don't really think about it from the point of view of this can be used for a workout as well. You've been doing this for now more than a decade. What are some of the most common myths and around workouts and fitness that you usually see, especially even around yoga? Because there's so much misconception in different parts about the world about what yoga really is and what fitness really is, and what are some of the most common things that you've heard over the years?
Since we are discussing about maintaining fitness, while traveling, one common myth, like, and we spoke about this, is that you need to work out at least 60 minutes at a time. But even like we said, a shorter duration workout, like even 10-15 minutes can be good enough. Like I mentioned, an HIIT workout, a Tabata workout is just 20 minutes, but you can have a fantastic workout with that. HIIT can help you in achieving your goal in a much shorter span of time, and one of the best ones to choose when you're traveling. At the end of the day, it's all about intensity and consistency. Another myth is that you don't need to lift weights, only cardio is enough, especially when you're talking about fat loss. In fact, I would say it's the opposite. I would recommend strength training. Strength training is much more effective for fat loss. The more muscle you have, the better your metabolism is, your fat burning capacity then improves. So, cardio is a great form of exercise, no doubt about it. Whether it is walking, jogging, running, cycling, swimming, all these types of movements, great for heart health, great for respiratory fitness, great for your brain and overall mood. But strength training is something that everyone should and must do, according to me, regardless of age or gender. So even for women, there's another myth that it will make them bulkier, but which is not true. And you spoke about yoga. So yoga is, like, I would say, there are many misconceptions, or there is half knowledge, or people don't have enough knowledge. Although in the last, say, a decade or so, awareness about yoga has improved quite a lot. But yoga is much more than just stretching. So when we talk about yoga, the one thing that comes to our mind is stretching or the postures. So that is just one part of it. It is, I would say, it is actually a holistic approach to your whole lifestyle. So like I said, stretching is just one part of it. The postures, the asanas as we call it. When it comes to physical practices of yoga, apart from postures, there are some cleansing practices, some different breathing techniques. So, yoga again is one thing that you need to learn properly from, and have proper guidance. But at the same time, it's one of the best things you can do. You don't need anything, especially when you're traveling. You can just have a small space and you can do a lot of different yoga techniques.
One of the things that you mentioned about cardio is actually quite correct. A lot of people just want to do that walk daily and they think that
Correct.
should be enough. But again, as you correctly mentioned, it's a lot of different exercises as opposed to just doing one thing. When you talk about both yoga and fitness, do you have any specific advice about not just travel, but what's the easiest way of incorporating this into your daily schedule so that when you travel, when you're actually under pressure, let's say to go for a meeting or for a conference and you're pressed for time, how do you incorporate all these practices as part of your daily schedule as opposed to actually having to go out of the way and having to do exercise or yoga?
So here, I would say the most important thing is to have that intention, first of all. Ideally, it should come from within. I would say do not wait for some event or a health issue which is making you take up exercising for that particular problem. Many times it happens people gain weight or have some issues like blood pressure or diabetes or develop some musculoskeletal issues, and then they realize that you need to do something to correct that problem. So again, so have that intention, have that mindset that you need to exercise, doesn't matter where you are. So even when you're traveling, you should have that mindset. It's completely okay when you say you're going for a weekend trip. It's not compulsory that you need to work out every single day. You just have fun on a weekend trip. But here we are talking about, say, a longer journey or longer duration trips, like 2, 3 weeks or even a month. Some people travel for business for a month. So at that time, how you incorporate this into your daily schedule. Also, I would say, you start small. Like I said, you don't have to exercise every single day. Even 15 to 30 minutes of exercise, say 2 to 3 times a week, can get you going. Uh, there's something in exercise science called as progressive overload. Every few weeks you can try and better yourself, whichever exercise you're doing, and challenge yourself in that particular exercise, or you can play around with different levels or different types of exercises. Here I would say, if it is easily possible, always take guidance from a fitness coach who can help you set or track your goals, at least for beginners, like I said earlier, rather than randomly following online information. Because exercising is such a science that is highly customized, highly subjective. Every person's requirements are different. Every person's fitness levels, the where or where they are starting is different. The reasons why one should exercise and what type of exercise one should do, or even avoid a particular exercise, differs. So, and only a proper coach can guide you with that. So, most importantly, I would say, especially when you're traveling, you need to be flexible with your routine. So, for frequent flyers, you can. make a list of exercises and stick to it, and always listen to your body. You can't be too hard on yourself every time. Rest and recovery are as important as exercising, I would say.
So, if you had to give the audience one takeaway from the episode about travel and fitness, what would that be?
So, see, ultimately, I would say, why do we want to stay fit and healthy? To be happy, isn't it? So, since we are talking about traveling, so much is at stake. So many things are pre-planned. So much money is involved, I would say. So nobody would want that to be affected. So if your health is not supporting, so the best thing you can do is take care of the things that are in your control. The key takeaway would be, make exercising a part of your lifestyle. Like I would say, make exercising a part of your existence. So even when you're traveling, make it a non-negotiable.
Yeah, I would be the first one to admit that I am not working out when I'm traveling. So that is
But
definitely a
that's
takeaway that I can
completely
take from
okay.
this episode.
Even I would say it's not that I have been on so many trips, not that I have exercised every single day. I mean, like I said, so but even a few minutes of exercise, uh, 10 minutes, even 10 minutes is fine.
And you can probably relate to this now a lot more. That one of the common workouts that many people would be having is when you have to chase a toddler. That's a very
Absolutely,
good.
that's a
That's a very
separate
good
workout
cardio work.
in itself. But
Now we will be doing some rapid fire with you, and just short, quick answers. So are you ready for this?
sure,
All right. The first question: aisle or window?
shorter duration flights window, longer duration flights high.
What's the meal that you usually order in flight?
There's no real preference, but as far as possible, try to choose whatever is healthier option in that.
Hotel room workout or hotel gym workout?
Hotel gym,
Best healthy snack that you like to eat during travel?
dry fruits.
What's the most unusual place that you've ever done a workout at?
That's a difficult one. I don't know whether unusual, but maybe some simple stretching at the elbow.
What's your tactic or strategy to overcome or avoid jet lag?
Hydrate yourself, move around, maybe try to manage your sleep schedule prior to the flight. So if you're traveling, say, east, you can try and, if possible, you can try and manage your or sleep in a little later compared to what you are used to first few days or before you're boarding the flight.
One simple stretch you'd recommend before and after the flight, if there was just one.
A simple hamstring stretch, just a toe touch. Maybe keep your leg on top of a chair, or whenever you are before boarding the flight, if possible, or you can just keep one leg ahead and try to touch your toes when forward. A nice hamstring stretch.
What do you prefer, early morning workout or evening workouts?
I generally prefer evening workouts.
Evening workouts, okay. And do you have a favorite yoga pose that you have over the years?
I always enjoy twisting poses. There are many seated twisting poses, standing poses. If you ask me if you want a particular name, then there is an asana called as Ardha Matsyendrasana, seated spinal twist. So that's one of my favorite poses.
All right, so that wraps up the rapid fire round. And for the benefit of our audience, can you please tell them where they can follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram. My handle is Ajinkya_Natu. And I have quite a few posts about yoga, fitness.
All right, then. So I hope the episode was really informative. Ajika, I had a lot of fun, a lot of interesting tidbits about fitness. I definitely got to learn a few things today, especially about lifting suitcases to do strength workouts. It was a great time having you on the podcast, and hope to have you soon.
Thank you so much. And I've seen some of your episodes, and I congratulate you again, and looking forward to more of your episodes like this. Thank you for having me here.
Indeed. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
See
Ajinkya.
you.
All right, then. That wraps up yet another episode of the Travel Dialogue podcast. I hope you had a lot of fun. I surely had a lot of fun. Lots of new tips and tricks to make you a smarter traveler, learning a lot of new information about staying fit and flexible while on the road. If you enjoyed this episode, do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Facebook at the Travel Dialogue Podcast. We're also on Instagram and X at travel_dialogue. can also partner with us and join our journey by clicking on one of the links through PayPal and our other partners. You will find all the links in the description below. Thanks once again for joining this episode of the Travel Dialogue podcast. We will see you in the next one. Until then, take care and have a good one.